Hi there, welcome to Ask the Chiropractor, your source for ultimate health, healing, and chiropractic-related information. I'm Dr. Adam Rodnick out of Commerce Township, Michigan. We have a very special guest with us today. We have Dr. Joel Wallach, world-renowned author, lecturer, physician, Nobel Prize nominee, and it's an honor and privilege to have you here, Doc.
Well, thank you, Dr. Rodnick. Pleased to be with you.
So I'd like to start telling our studio audience here how you got into the profession, how you became a physician. I know you have a very interesting background of where you grew up and how you got into it.
Well, quickly, the difference in my background is I have a degree in agriculture. In the agricultural industry, we eliminated some 900 different diseases in livestock simply because we don't have health insurance for them. I was always fascinated we did that for animals and not people. Went on to veterinary school and then actually wrote the first paper on a mass die-off from pollution, which kind of led the direction of my life after that. Went on to work with the National Institutes of Health with a big project called the Center for the Biology of the Natural System, where I was a comparative pathologist. Did over 17,500 autopsies and over 454 species of zoo animals looking for pollution and nutritional problems associated with chronic disease. 3,000 human beings who lived in close proximity with the zoos for the same purpose. 10 million chemistries, and the book that came out of that's one of these big 1,200-page books. It's in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure, so I'm quite proud of that. I was an abysmal failure at getting the medical system and medical doctors interested in using nutrition for the human patient, so I went back to school and became a naturopathic physician, which on the West Coast for primary care physicians, and for 33 years have used everything that I learned in veterinary nutrition and agricultural nutrition for my human patients. And I could tell you with great confidence that the concept of preventing and curing diseases in animals with nutritional formulas works for people. For instance, diseases we like to think of as genetic or autoimmune are simply nutritional deficiency diseases. We've known for some 60 years that type 2 diabetes is a simple mineral deficiency disease. You can usually get rid of it in 2 to 14 days. Arthritis is a simple mineral deficiency disease. Heart disease, there's 3 different basic heart diseases. 2 of the 3 are caused by simple nutritional deficiencies. The other one's caused by free radical damage and inflammation of the artery. So it's very simple to deal with these diseases in a fashion as we do in animals. It's very economical, saves lives.
So one of the things that really separates you in the nutrition world from most of the other people in the industry and in the world is the research, because there aren't very many people that have had government grants, multi-million-dollar research studies with all those autopsies. That's amazing how much research was put into the nutrition, which you then later put into practice.
Yes, it's quite cute, I call it, where people will say, well, is there any research on that? I said, well, how about $3 trillion over a 100-year period? Well, I never heard of that. Well, that's because you don't read the language. If you're a medical doctor, they get 30 minutes of nutrition in 14 years of medical school. They don't even get a test on that 30 minutes of nutrition. So to them, nutrition is sort of something that kids learn in 2nd grade and they don't need to deal with it anymore.
Let's talk a little bit about longevity.
Okay.
Now we know that the average life expectancy in the United States is obviously lower than many other countries in the world, most of the industrial world. And most people believe that it's very rare for people to live into the hundreds. And we know now, medically, scientifically, that the human life expectancy, the potential for the human body is much higher than we are actually living.
You're exactly right. We've actually known for quite a while that the human being has the capacity to live well beyond 150. This is brought up just about every day now by gerontologists from great universities. And these people study longevity, and there's no doubt about it, the human capacity to live a long, healthful life goes well beyond 150. That's chronologically. Of course, biologically, it could be 30. And that's our goal, is to get people to live well beyond 100 chronologically, while being biologically 30, 40, 50. The long-lived cultures on Earth, which are written up in the book Immortality, for instance, there's 20 cultures that live in what's called the blue zones, and these people have 40 times the 100-year-olds we do. 40 times, Dr. Rodnick. They have 100-year-old per 250 of their population. According to Harvard Medical School, Americans have only 1 per 10,000.
It's a big difference.
Big difference. These people live to be 90 on the average. We live to be 75. And these folks outlive us, yet we spend more money for health care than all the 218 nations in the world put together. Despite spending all that money, In 1990, we ranked 17th in longevity. Today, we rank 60th. In 1990, we ranked 32nd in healthfulness in the world. Today, we rank 92nd. This is according to the Center for Disease Control out of Atlanta, Georgia, and from the World Health Organization. And it's primarily because we don't pay attention to the simple needs of the human body. Everybody knows, even little kids, if they go to health class, that your skin goes away every couple of months and the new skin repairs it and comes and fills in the holes when the old skin dies. But even the average medical doctor doesn't understand that requires raw materials to do that. And if every tissue in your body, whether it's your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your skin, your bones, everything goes away. It's just natural that everything deteriorates with use, right? And so if you don't have the raw materials to rebuild it, it just goes away. And that's what causes degenerative diseases. We have insurance for the human healthcare industry, which has been perhaps the biggest mistake. In the animal industry, we have no insurance, so we must fix them. It's too expensive to treat them for a long period of time. In human beings, insurance pays for long-term treatment. There's not a single insurance policy that prevents or cures a disease. There's not a single insurance policy that prevents or cures a disease. So in the animal industry, we learned how to just prevent and cure the diseases. Much more economical, much more effective.
There's the old quote, an ounce of prevention is equal to a pound of cure, and that's one of the biggest problems we see in our nation is we focus on crisis emergency care rather than health, wellness, and prevention in general. And it's, would you say it's a lack of education to the public that, that really brings it on in the United States rather than other countries?
Well, it's because we have given too much power to the medical system. We say, well, whatever you say, doc, you're the doctor.
It's all blind faith.
Exactly, all blind faith. Whereas the third world cultures, and by the way, these top 20 longevity cultures are all third world cultures, not a single industrialized nation in the top 20 longevity cultures. They all still use home remedies. And they, number one, they don't get killed as often as we do.
Right.
You know, you play with fire, you get burned. And so they avoid a lot of death and injuries simply by not using a healthcare system. And they have no insurance, private or government, so there's no encouragement for them to use a healthcare system. Grandma still sends them out in the woods to collect herbs, and they use them for their medicines. They still do things we don't do to get raw materials. For instance, in the third world cultures, they don't have utilities like we do. They don't have electricity and natural gas for heating and cooking. They still use wood for fuel, and they use the wood ashes, which are really plant minerals, for fertilizer in their gardens. The tomatoes and beans suck up these minerals. They eat the tomatoes and beans. They get their minerals in that fashion. We don't have minerals left over when we use electricity or propane or natural gas for fuel. As a result, we've given up that huge chunk of our nutritional background. Our nutritional history we gave up when we stopped using wood for fuel. We no longer put bone meal in our bread. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he live or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. We don't do that anymore. Bread now is just calories. So we've given up an enormous amount of nutrition that our forefathers used to do. And in veterinary medicine, since there's no insurance to pay for that, the farmer must get it right, right out of the chute. If a pig needs a double knee replacement, he's bacon tomorrow. Nobody's going to pay for a double knee replacement, right? And so we learned how to prevent osteoarthritis. We've learned how to prevent degenerative disc disease and sciatica in pigs and sheep and chickens and things like that. We've eliminated all birth defects. That's pretty profound. We've eliminated all birth defects in the livestock industry because a farmer cannot afford to pay for the feed and upkeep of 100 cows and have, say, 20% of the calves born low birth weight early. They have to be in an incubator for 3 months at $1,200 a day. Not happening.
How much would a hamburger cost at that
point?
Oh, it
costs you $500 a pound, right? Exactly. And so we do things very simply in the agricultural industry. And I took that concept to my human patients, and for 33 years I've been doing this, and we see people get off their diabetic medication, type 2 diabetics, 2 days to 14 days, they go back to normal life. 2 days to 14 days, they go back to normal life.
It's amazing.
Same way, lupus, thought to be an autoimmune disease. A couple of months' time, they don't have lupus anymore. Arthritis, I don't care if they've had their meniscus surgically removed, we can rebuild it. Degenerative disc disease, back pain, peripheral neuropathies, which you see a lot of.
Absolutely.
We can actually regrow the disc. The only negative is they have to redo the hem in their skirts and their pants because they'll get about an inch taller as the discs get thicker.
It's amazing what, and I see it every day in our office too.
Yes.
If they have the right ingredients and they have the right nerve supply and the right blood supply, the body is very miraculous.
Miraculous power to heal itself. The good Lord has given us that power, but we have to give it raw materials. And Linus Pauling, one of my two favorite Nobel Prize winners, his first Nobel Prize was for studying the nutrition of genes, chromosomes, and enzymes. These bodily processes that are driven by genes and chromosomes and enzymes cannot work without mineral cofactors. Mineral cofactors to genes are like spark plugs to a 1,200 horsepower engine. You can have a 1,200 horsepower engine, 300 octane gas, you can have the best of everything. But if you don't have spark plugs, nothing's happening. And so these minerals are an imperative for these things to work. And that's why Linus Pauling got his Nobel Prize. His first one was in the nutrition required by genes to work, and most people forget that piece.
I see a lot of people, Doc, and I'm sure you may agree with me here, use genetics or say their genes almost as a crutch. They don't take care of their body, they don't take care of themselves because they say, well, I have bad genetics. You know, I have heart disease in my family, I'm going to get it anyway.
Well, they've been misled by the medical system. The medical system tells them that to continue to use them as an ATM machine, which is very, very bad, of course. And I really appreciate what you're doing to educate the public. And to that end, I've spent the last 33 years giving 300 free lectures a year to make sure that the public at least knows the other line of thinking and the other options. And today, with the current economic problems and the meltdown in the medical community, people are more open to listening to other options. Especially they lose their jobs, they don't have their medical insurance, they can't afford medical treatment, so they start looking for things that will work for them but yet be economical.
And one of the problems is many people don't even know that there are other options. They go to their doctor and they take it with blind faith.
Say,
right, exactly. They don't realize there's options. You know, everyone has options with everything. You build a house, you have options, and how many builders do you get quotes? Most people don't do that in the medical system. Huh?
Right. Well, again, I appreciate what you're doing to let people know that they do have options, and they're very simple, they're very economical, and I like to tell people that you know, in dogs, we've tripled their lifespan over the last 60 years. 60 years ago, an old dog was 8, today an old dog is 25. We didn't do that with wonder drugs or stem cells or organ transplants. We did it simply by putting vitamins and minerals in their food. And I usually ask the audience who has a dog, and 2/3 of the people raise their hands. And pick somebody, usually a nice lady, and say, well, what do you feed your dog? Oh, the very best dog food. Well, how come you don't feed him what you eat? Well, it would kill him if he ate human food. And I say, okay, well, think about that. Why do you eat food that will kill a dog?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Okay, and we spent over $100 billion doing the research on the perfect nutrition for dogs to triple their lifespan and eliminate 900 different diseases. Think about it. A dog lives to be 25 years of age, 3 times what they used to 60 years ago, and they only go to a veterinarian once a year to get a rabies shot, unless they get hit by a car or something. But for degenerative diseases, diabetes, arthritis, degenerative disc disease, heart disease, if they feed them only a commercial dog food, they will not get those diseases. Now, they start playing around and giving them half table scraps because they feel good like they're giving them some human food, they will get these other diseases. But if they feed them a commercial dog food only, they will not get those diseases.
So there's a huge difference in the amount of minerals, the amount of vitamins, the amount of everything good that's in the dog food as compared to what we eat with all of our preservatives, with all the garbage in there, everything extracted. And what would you say about the difference between that, what we feed the animals, and even what we put in things like infant formulas?
Oh, that's very scary. That's one of my favorite subjects. In dog infant formulas, if you will, milk replacers, when there's too many puppies, the owner has to kind of bottle feed some of the puppies. There's 40 minerals in dog milk replacer. In human beings, things like Similac, only 11 or 12. And then most of the really, really important minerals to prevent heart disease and so forth, they're not in there. Again, because the medical system doesn't have the experience in nutrition. It's, people say, oh, that's tragic that they don't give those to humans. No, it actually should be a Class A felony because these kids will die early. They get heart attacks when they're 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. Certainly in schools, kids die from cardiomyopathy heart disease, which is a simple deficiency of a single mineral called selenium. And I actually have done over 1,200 autopsies on kids under the age of 10 that died of these cardiomyopathy heart disease, a simple selenium deficiency. And because of these studies, the Chinese government gives every kid in school a multiple plus extra selenium and wiped out the disease in kids. Yet we still let our kids here in America die from these diseases simply because they're told falsely that they can eat well and get everything they need. And by the way, following that system, Dr. Rodnick, the average lifespan of a billionaire in America just came out a couple of months ago, Forbes magazine, is 66. They can afford the best doctors, they can afford the best food, but following the doctor's recipe, in 2004, the average billionaire lived to be 78. Today, 7 years later, it's only 66.
Which is far less than the average person.
That's right. And so I'm not going to follow that recipe. Okay, I'm not going to do what billionaires do because they only live to be 66. Medical doctors live to be 56. And so now I'm going to find out how long naturopathic physicians and chiropractic physicians live.
I bet we do better. Be a great study. I'd love to see that.
Better.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's how you came up with your original CD, Dead Doctors Don't Lie.
That's correct.
Can you get into that a little bit with us?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly why I came up with that title. The average medical doctor, I determined back in 1993, only lived to be 58. They didn't like that, so they did their own study. They said, well, we live to be 56. I had to apologize for giving them too many years. And so when I was asked why I pursued that, and they said, well, only dead doctors don't lie, because they're trying to tell us how to live long, healthful lives, yet their lifespan, according to their own survey, is 56. And they die from heart disease and stroke and diabetes and cancer and kidney failure, all the things we die from. And so it's actually hypocrisy for them to be the, quote, experts in health when they die at 56 of the same diseases they're trying to prevent in us.
Right, and the thing is, it's not necessarily prevention. They're just trying to, most of the time, is cover up, stop the symptoms, stop the disease, attack the disease, rather than prevent and
yes.
get to real health.
Exactly. And this, of course, is bred by the insurance system. Everybody has insurance, and they don't really think about prevention as we do in the animal industry. In the animal industry, again, if you look at an alfalfa pellet for a rabbit, for instance, that alfalfa pellet has everything known for that rabbit to be in that pellet. The alfalfa is just to get the rabbit to eat it. Whatever that rabbit gets out of the alfalfa pellet is value added. In human beings, just like medical doctors will tell billionaires, listen, eat well, get a good chef, have them cook the food in this manner. And following that recipe, because they don't supplement, billionaires live to be 66.
All right. So let's talk about some of the specific minerals and some of the specific diseases. So we're talking a little bit, you mentioned selenium and
yes.
With cardiomyopathy, heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been told even that you actually even had a suit against the AMA about selenium, and the AMA even fought you about the research that you had, and
yes.
you ended up winning that, huh?
Yes, well actually I fought them at the level of the FDA, at the federal level, sued them in federal court, and here's a case where the FDA would allow you to say diets and foods rich in selenium will reduce your risk of cancer. You could not put the word supplement in there. You couldn't say supplement. You use supplements of selenium, you can reduce your risk of cancer. You can only say diets rich in selenium. And so this is what I sued him for, and I prevailed and won in federal court. And I was able to win two things. Number one, we now can say by supplementing with 200 micrograms of selenium, 1/5 of a milligram of selenium, you can actually reduce your risk of many different types of cancer. And secondly, I was able to get, by supplementing with 200 micrograms of selenium, you're able to have your body make anti-cancer substances in your body like glutathione. And this is, although it seems sort of very shallow and very simple things, you ought to be able to say that. Well, it was a federal law that said you couldn't say that. So you had to fight this in the federal court, and the federal court actually saw that we had literally semi-trucks load of evidence that was paid for by public money through federal grants. It was came from tax money. And the FDA and the medical system, as you point out, was holding this from the people. And so the federal court says, well, the First Amendment, and that's how we won. We didn't win on science. We tried winning on science for 25 years, and no, it didn't work because the FDA kept moving the goalpost. When we finally figured out we had to sue them on the First Amendment for our right to know, kind of like you'd sue them to get records and documents, information, the Freedom of Information Act. Well, this is how we beat them, was the First Amendment and the Freedom of Information Act.
That's amazing. And so let's just repeat that for our audience, that it's proven that supplementing selenium will reduce the risk of cancer. And that's really the magic question that millions
yes.
of people in the public are always talking about. How can they reduce the risk of cancer?
Well, you can actually, Dr. Gerhard Schrauzer, one of the greatest guys, he should have got a Nobel Prize for discovering that selenium is an essential nutrient. His study showed that you can reduce the risk of breast cancer by 82% by supplementing with 200 micrograms of selenium. Then there was a big study at the University of South Carolina, came out in 1998, that said you can reduce the risk of breast cancer by 462%. Dr. Rodnick, by 462% simply by cooking your meat medium or rare rather than well done. Just by how you cook your meat, you can reduce your risk of breast cancer by 462%.
So let's repeat that. By cooking it medium or medium rare rather than well done, 462% reducing the risk of cancer.
That's correct.
That is amazing.
That also holds true for prostate cancer and colon cancer.
So. And that's a big misconception because people always think red meat, rare meat is going to be worse for them. Most of the public does not know that.
Well, again, because they've been misled by the medical system. The medical system feels that they have to pontificate on everything because they're supposed to be the experts. And invariably, they give us bad advice. For instance, erectile dysfunction is caused by bad advice by doctors. They tell you to get on a cholesterol-restricted diet, take cholesterol-lowering drugs. Testosterone is 95% by weight cholesterol. Women spend half their life going through menopause now where their grandmothers went through menopause in 3 seconds. That's because estrogen and progesterone are 95% by weight cholesterol. Then we have Alzheimer's disease today, which is a physician-caused disease. 75% of the human brain weight is myelin. You're familiar with the brain. 75% of the brain weight is the white matter of the brain, the myelin in the brain. And myelin is almost 100% cholesterol. And so when the cholesterol goes away in your brain, you get the nerve tangles and they shard out and you get Alzheimer's disease. We actually have people with Parkinson's disease that in 3 months' time, they go from being totally disabled, I mean totally disabled, not going to live a couple more months, I mean everything advanced stage of Parkinson's disease you can think of. And by eating 10 eggs a day and taking all known essential nutrients appropriate for their body weight, in 3.5 months' time, they can play baseball, basketball, they can golf and hit holes in one, and they're perfectly normal in 3.5 months, yet they ate 1,100 eggs in that 3.5 months.
And what people don't see is there's actually dozens of conditions along the same way. These demyelination conditions like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, ALS,
Yep.
Exactly. Lou Gehrig's disease is the common name for that. And cholesterol in the public is known as the bad guy. Cholesterol is, people don't want to have cholesterol.
Yeah.
Statin drugs are like one of the most commonly prescribed drugs around, and we need it. We need it in our body.
It's an essential nutrient.
For our nervous system.
Exactly.
And not only for our nervous system and for our anabolic steroids, our testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, the next step is those things can help to produce strong bone matrix. So what we've been seeing now within the last 20 years, since statin drugs have been such on the rise, the male level of osteoporosis is equal to the level of female. You know, 30 years ago, when you asked about osteoporosis, primarily females, now just as many males because so many people are taking statin drugs.
Exactly. And that's directly related to vitamin D3 levels. Because everybody now in America is vitamin D3 deficient. That's another physician-caused disease. Places that people used to get vitamin D3 was sunshine, egg yolks, meat, and so you get on a cholesterol-restricted diet again. You're eating egg beaters instead of eggs. You're eating tofu instead of red meat, boneless, skinless chicken breast. How they grow chickens without skin, I don't know, but somehow they figured that out. And then you're not supposed to take any vitamin A and D because it's bad for your liver. They put you on SPF 7 billion sunblocker, long sleeves glove, big brim hat, don't go out in the moonlight, right? And so everybody's got vitamin D3 deficiency, and this is why so many males now have osteoporosis.
And even more in our audience here in Michigan is the D3 deficiency because we get less sunlight than a lot of other states. So it's very important to make sure we keep that not only in our diets but also supplement with it.
Yes. And so what I like to tell people to do is first thing they should do is fire their medical doctor and then begin to take on a project of learning how to take care of themselves. And this is why I wrote the books Let's Play Doctor, Immortality, these types of books, to help people educate themselves. They can actually do their own physical, which will actually be a better physical than a medical doctor will give them for $3.79. They can go into a pharmacy, sit in the chair, get their blood pressure taken in the machine for free, their own pulse for $3.79. They can get test strips for their urine, which will include kidney and liver function, see if they have blood, sugar, protein, ketone bodies in their urine. They can find out their blood sugar, their A1C, hemoglobins, tell if they have diabetes or not. They can see if they're anemic, all for $3.79.
Oh, and it's amazing. We talked about it a little bit earlier. You know, when people go to the doctor, they take the opinion like it's blind faith, and they don't get other opinions from other doctors, from different types of doctors, from more natural holistic doctors, and from other types of medical doctors. Where, you know, if someone's air conditioner goes out, they're going to get 3 opinions. When somebody is told they need surgery, they don't get 3 opinions. They go right in and
right. Exactly. When can we schedule it, doctor?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, well, yeah, again, I appreciate what you're doing, because the idea that we need to put oil in our car before the engine burns up, we all know, but we have to think we need to prevent these diseases. The whole goal is to prevent these diseases. Now, I personally have not been to a physician with me being sick for 64 years. I'm not stupid, so I take my own physicals every 3 months. I do 4 physicals a year, and because I've been taking these 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, 3 essential fatty acids. I've been doing this since I was 9 years old. I figured this out when I was 9. And because doctors were giving me some really funny ideas. I actually had a facial tic. People call it Tourette syndrome today. And to make a long story short, my eye doctor said it was caused by my eyelashes being too long, hitting my glasses, curling back, and tickling my eyeballs. Well, at 9 years old, that didn't sound right to me. So reading the books in the library, I found out it was caused by a calcium deficiency. So I started eating calf pellets because I read the analysis label said calcium for calf pellets. So I started eating them instead of Cheerios, and it went away. A disease that I had was progressive over 5 years. In 3 days, went away just by eating calf pellets.
You just saw it there. No one suggested it to you.
No.
You saw it, had the calcium, and went for it, huh?
Yes.
The eye tickling theory just didn't make sense.
No,
huh?
to a 9-year-old didn't make sense.
So we have just another minute if you'd like to give us a final thought or two, Doc.
Well, again, I appreciate that, Dr. Rodnick, and the advice I would give to people is to get these books, contact us through you, so that we can help them. Our teaching is for free. We teach them how to take care of themselves, put oil in their car before the engine burns up, take these nutrients before they get ill, and they just won't get ill, just like the dogs. We get rid of 900 different diseases. We triple their lifespan just by putting vitamins and minerals in their food. And from what I've seen over 33 years in humans, it works in humans too.
We have 5 of your books here, and let's, before we wrap up today, let's just show the books here. And this was your first book, correct?
This is the first book, Let's Play Doctor. It teaches people how to deal with over 420 diseases using vitamins and minerals and trace minerals and rare earths and amino acids, fatty acids, herbs, and aromatherapy oils. The companion book, Let's Play Herbal Doctor, is for when people need medicines. These are not nutrients, herbs are not nutrients, but you can use them as antibiotics, pain relievers, laxatives, these kinds of things. And so this is a companion book to the Let's Play Doctor book. It tells you how to use herbs and aromatherapy oils and Bach flower remedies for medicines.
And not only can they be just as effective as pharmaceutical type medicines, but they also can be a lot safer.
A lot safer, a lot more economical, and you don't need a prescription to get them.
Right, right.
Okay.
And we have a couple more books here, huh?
Okay, well, Energy Crisis, quickly. We actually have acquired a large coffee company. One is a weight loss coffee, one's a coffee for energy, one's a coffee for taking vitamins and minerals for those that don't like pills. You can actually drink your coffee with your vitamins and minerals. There's chapters in there on all the good things about coffee and how it reduces your risk of Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's and so on. Then Immortality talks about the longevity of humans, how long we can live, how to prevent aging, anti-aging. We have 80 million baby boomers coming along. We're already into the 3rd printing of this book. It's only been out for a year because the baby boomers are all buying it because they all want to live to be 150. And then Rare Earths Forbidden Cures is a scientific book for people who want to know how minerals work in the body.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Rodnick.
It's been a pleasure. So again, I'm Dr. Adam Rodnick out of Commerce Township, Michigan. This has been Ask the Chiropractor. Remember that God gave you the gift of life, and what you do with that gift is your gift back to God. We'll see you next time on Ask the Chiropractor.